So, good evening, Rabbi. We're going to discuss tonight Parashat Vai'Etzeh, the Parashat Shavua. Lots of interesting things in this parasha. Very, very, very deep stuff. Also, very deep concepts. One thing we have to understand, right? That this parasha is focused on Yaakov Avinu, how he went to Galut, he went to exile, he had to run away from his brother. His brother wanted to kill him. You know how it is, right? He wanted to kill him, his brother, so he had to go. There's no way to stay there.
The story never changes, right?
What does that mean?
In the Chumash.
Never changes. No, never changes. But there's always new colors, new, right? Right. New chidushim. You know what they say, right? En bet hamidrash beli chidush. You know what that means? Every time you have a class, there's going to be something new there. You know, always something new. So the interesting thing about Yaakov Avinu, there's a lot of interesting things, but the truth is that you see from here, this parasha, that Yaakov Avinu, his life was one tragedy after another. You know, one downfall after another. Always falling down, always being hit, you know, always like on the verge of killing, being killed, or being assassinated, or being wiped out. That's the idea, right? Everybody's trying to wipe him out. Everybody's his enemy. Everybody, right, wants to get a piece of the action, piece of his flesh, cut something off. So the question is, why did Yaakov have such a difficult life like that? The Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him such a big tzaddik like this. And what's the reward for being a big tzaddik? To have the worst life you can possibly have. This is the reward that a tzaddik is supposed to get. What's the point, right? That's what they say, the Chazal. Zot Torah bezos schara. This is Torah, and this is the reward for Torah, for learning Torah. This is what you get. What kind of thing is this? Yaakov Avinu went through one tragedy after another. So the question is why? Avraham and Yitzchak, they also went through things, but not like this. This was like bombardment. One day after another, probably like the Trump, same thing, right? The president, he's being bombarded for 4 years, no, they don't let up on him, they try to destroy him. Every day try to find a way to destroy him, So Yaakov Avinu, he was like this also, maybe even worse. So what's the reason why Yaakov Avinu had such a like enemies like this? Everybody hates him like this and whatever. So they say the Chazal, really the truth is that Yaakov Avinu had a special quality. Even though the patriarchs were all holy and very, very, very great, but Yaakov Avinu was the creme de la creme. He was the cream of the crop. He was the top of all of them. What made him so great like that? So the Chazal say it's because of his spiritual quality. What does that mean? That Avraham Avinu, they say the Chazal, his quality was chesed, kindness, right? Yitzchak Avinu, his quality was din, harsh judgment, very strong judgment. This was Yitzchak Avinu, There's also that side in Judaism. You have the judges, the ones who tell you this is allowed, this is not allowed, this is the border, don't cross, don't cross over. There's that element in Judaism, the side of judgment, the side of justice. What about Yaakov Avinu? What did he have? So they say his midah, his element, his quality was tiferet. That's what it's called in Kabbalah. In the Kabbalah, there's 10 sfirot, there's 10 qualities that the world is ruled through, those qualities, and one of them is called Tiferet. This is one of the higher ones, right? So Yaakov Avinu had this quality. So what is this Tiferet? What is that comprised of? So they tell us, the Chazal, it's comprised of two different things together. You put them together, and it becomes like a forged, like a multifaceted kind of element. What is that? You put din on one side, you put chesed on the other side, you put them together, and if it comes out to be a good mixture, the right ratio, 50-50, 40-60, whatever it is, right? That right formula, that special sauce, that you have to have. If you get that, you have tiferet. So what is tiferet? Tiferet means that a person is perfectly balanced between judgment and kindness. There's no imbalance whatsoever. It's like perfect. Right? Right? That's what does that mean? When you see something like that, you say, "Wow, God bless this person." He's the best. Nobody like him. That's the way Yaakov Avinu was. He had that perfect balance between judgment and kindness. And they say that this is the quality that Talmid Chacham has to have. A real Talmid Chacham has to have this mixture. Otherwise, he's not really such a good Talmid Chacham. A real Talmid Chacham. Also, Moshe Rabbeinu, right? They say the same thing. Moshe Rabbeinu was a continuation of Yaakov Avinu in this regard. He also was a continuation. The truth is that Moshe Rabbeinu was even on a higher level. Yaakov Avinu had a certain level. Moshe Rabbeinu even took it to a different degree, higher degree. This midah of tiferet, this quality of tiferet. So all the Talmidei Chachamim, the great Talmidei Chachamim, who are coming from the line of Yaakov Avinu and Moshe Rabbeinu, they all have this quality. So since Yaakov Avinu had the perfect balance between this and that, so therefore what happens is, when a person is perfect, when he's really, really good, you know what happens, right? He always has enemies. He has people who are jealous of him. They want to get him because they see, wow, this guy's better than me. I'm never going to be like him. I'm compared to him, I'm nobody. I'm insignificant. I'm nothing. I'm a big zero. So because of the jealousy, they try to foil him, put him down, do something to undermine him. Like they're doing in Congress over there. These kinds of tricks. This hearing, that hearing, this committee, that committee, right? Trying to this, moving it over here, moving it over there. The whole idea is for destruction, to cause some kind of destruction, to assassinate somebody, to destroy his career, to destroy his life. Same thing to Yaakov Avinu. You should know, by the way, that there's also a reason why this is happening to the president. It's not a coincidence. Nobody has been, subjugated like this, like such degradation like this.
Sure.
For no apparent reason.
Yeah.
You know why this is? Because the truth is that this man, he's on the side of the holiness. He's trying to help the holiness. He's trying to assist the holiness.
Is that your personal opinion? Or?
You can see it. It's very clear. What does that mean? That he's basically advancing the cause of the redemption of the whole world, of the Jewish people and the whole world as well. How is he doing that? Supporting Israel, supporting the Jews, supporting the Torah, supporting the religion, supporting God, being, talking about God, talking about this, and also basically, he's coming out and saying, came out last week, right? His foreign minister, Secretary of State, he said they can do settlements, they're not illegal, let them go, listen. Did you ever hear a president who said like that?
Pompeo said that?
Yeah.
Really? No.
Press conference, This is something very, very new. What does that mean? That this guy is coming all the way, and trying to push forward the redemption of the world. He's trying to, he's helping us basically, helping the Jewish people. Yeah. This is like, it's not really, there's element of Mashiach in many ways in this world. Right, there was a one of the kings of Persia. His name was Koresh, right? Cyrus. So what happened with Cyrus? They compare, by the way, Trump to Cyrus. What's the reason why? What's the connection? Because Cyrus was also, God commanded him through the prophets that he should build the second temple, help the Jews to build the second temple. So he did it, What does that mean? He freed them up. He told them, you want to go back to Israel? Go back, build your temple. He says, I'll supply you with the funds. You need cash, donations, right? Any, all kinds of materials, foods, this, some oil, this, all kinds of things. Whatever you need, it's on me, on the house. Just go do your job. Why did he do this? Because he was commanded by God, So he did it. He was a righteous king, Cyrus. He was a goy, but a righteous man. They also criticize him, by the way. What does that mean? They say that he was righteous, but he didn't go all the way, like 100%. He shunned out a little bit, what does that mean? Like Kadosh Baruch Hu really wanted him to do a little bit more. Not just to say, go and I'll give you money, I'll fund you. What he really wanted, that he should actively participate also in the building. Bring the cranes, bring the materials, bring this, like in other words, he should really actively, he wanted him to go that extra mile, but he didn't do that. But nevertheless, what he did was also very, very significant. So this guy also, our president, he's also doing something very similar. He's pushing, he's telling you, go do your job. I'm not stopping you. You want to go do your job? It's on me, go for it. I have no problems with that. I'll help you. This is why when you have a person like this, the Satan is always trying to push him down. This is the reason why. So all the more so, right? When you have somebody like Yaakov Avinu, who was the pinnacle of creation, much greater than those kings that we just mentioned, on a much greater level. So the Satan was trying to push him down all the time. Why is that? Because the whole redemption, the redemption of the world, the perfection of the world, the rectification of the world depends on Yaakov Avinu and his family. So therefore, the Satan tried to do everything to push him down, to destroy him. So what happened? First of all, Esav, right, comes after him to destroy him. So what happened? The Parsha tells us that he left Vai'Etzeh, right? He went out. He left. So what happened? Right away, Esav sends, right, one of his sons to kill him. What does Esav do? Right? Sends Eliphaz. Eliphaz was his firstborn son. He tells Eliphaz, you see this Yaakov, he tried to get away from me now, right? So he says, go, I want you to go and finish him off, rub him out. Godfather movie, something like that, right? So he tells him like that. So Eliphaz goes and he tries to do that. Whatever his father tells him, he does. Right? They say Eliphaz was an interesting character. Why? On the one hand, he was the son of Esav, which is like a bad guy, Rasha. On the other hand, they say that Eliphaz had also something good about him. What was the good part? The good part was that he was a grandson of Yitzchak. So what does that mean? He used to come to Yitzchak, Yitzchak would give him like some candies, oh, come, some candies, sit on his lap, like this. Okay, let me teach you something, son, He would teach him Torah, he would teach him morality, decency, all kinds of things. So Eliphaz was a wise man because of that, you understand? He knew a lot of things. He grew up on the lap of Yitzchak, So Eliphaz was a very smart guy. On the other hand, he was kind of foolish also, as we're going to see, right, in the story. He did something very, very foolish, right? So what happened was that Eliphaz is sent out by Esav, tells him, go and kill him. So the problem, Eliphaz has a problem with this, Why? Because Eliphaz has also affinity for these people. They're family, it's one family, It's his uncle. He grew up with that family, they grew up in one compound, one extended family compound. All of a sudden, I have to go and kill him. So he comes over there, he catches up to, Yaakov. On the road, Eliphaz. So he tells him, he says, I'm sorry, my uncle, he says, I apologize, but he says, my father commanded me to kill you, So I have to do what my father says. So he tells him. So Yaakov, played it like smart, he was like a, elder statesman, everything smart, everything clever. Person has to be clever, by the way. When you're dealing with people like this, you have to neutralize them. The best thing not to do is to fight them. Go combat. Hand to hand combat.
You think
you can neutralize them sometimes without that.
Can
You
be
see?
neutralized?
Who? I'm sorry.
You think Adam Schiff can be neutralized?
His name is Adam.
You need a bulldozer to neutralize him.
How do we get rid of these people?
Sir, what's his name?
No,
So-
look at these people. They're like devils, like
Yeah,
snakes.
yeah. So what happens is Eliphaz goes out there, right? So Yaakov Avinu, tells him, says, listen, he says, my son, let's get everything straight, let's talk straight. So he says, okay, your father told you to kill me, right? So what are you trying to do now? You're trying to kill them, to respect your father, so you're doing his will, right? This was actually very, very foolish. Why? Because if your father tells you to do a sin, you're not supposed to do a sin. You know what I mean? That's not what kibbud avim is all about. Father tells you go and kill somebody. That doesn't mean you should listen to him. Oh, I respected my father. You crazy, man? You have to respect first God, before you respect your father. What does that mean? You want to kill somebody because your father told you? That's not kibbud avim. This is a sin. So Eliphaz was kind of like foolish at the same time. He wasn't exactly he didn't have such a high IQ. His IQ was a little bit not up there with the big leagues, right? So what happened was that he tells him, he says, yeah, my father told me, he says, you know how it is, right? When your father tells you something, you gotta do. Kibbud avim, We learned that in the family, Our family is into respecting your father. So he tells him, he says, you know what? He says, okay, fine. He says, I'll tell you a way to do it without having to actually physically kill me. Tells him, He neutralized him with his mouth. This is the best way to do it, Make peace, Try to make peace first. Then, if last resort, to go to war sometimes. But first, get together, the diplomats. You know what they say, right? If old men don't talk, the young men will die, right? What does that mean? If the diplomats don't get together to make peace, so then the young soldiers will go out and kill each other. That's what happens, right? It's better that the old man should talk than the young man should die. That's the idea, right? So here also, the old man talked. You understand? So what did he tell him? He says, listen, he says, you know what it says in our Torah? That a person who's poor is considered to be like dead. So he says, therefore, he says, you should just rob me now, like mug me. You know, you take everything I have. Leave me with nothing, no money, no cash, no nothing, no credit cards, no nothing, right? No debit cards. Take everything. Leave me with nothing. Skimpy little guy, and it will be considered like as if you killed me, because you left me poor. So Eliphaz likes that, you know. He says, "Wow, so that's interesting." He says, "You know what? We'll do that. Okay, let's try that." So he takes everything from him. He mugs him, you know, pillaged him right there on the road. He takes everything, goes back home, you know. So Yaakov Avinu now is left barehanded with nothing. You know, right? If you ever traveled, you know that the worst thing is when you travel with no money, because you always need cash, you know, to buy this, to buy that, to get into here, to get into there, for the hotel, for the cabs, you know, for this, all kinds of things. If you don't have cash when you're traveling, you're like really up the creek, you know what I mean? Like seriously, you know that, right? It's the worst thing that a person can get into. So what happens is now he's going to Lavan's house, you know, and he's supposed to get married over there.
What was the money? What did he tell his father?
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't say what he did with the money, but you can imagine they probably did something nice with it, you know.
Okay.
Went out to the shopping malls, you know, got some bought somewhere.
No. What did he tell his father? Did his father ever?
The narrative doesn't continue that far, right? It doesn't continue, but you can imagine. You can use your imagination to what happened over there.
My imagination. Okay.
It doesn't say. Okay, so that's the end of the story over there, right? So what happens now is that Yaakov, you know, is going now to get married in Lavan's house, but he has nothing to show for him, you know, zero money, zero cash, zero niftebi, you know, no gifts, no nothing, coming empty-handed like a pauper, you know. You know. So he comes over there to the house of Lavan. He stands there right by the well. They say all the forefathers that went like this, they went by the well. Why is that? Because they say that the well is a segula. This is maybe good for you. We're talking about those parties, right? Going to those singles parties. But the truth is that they say the best place to meet your match is at the well. This is the reason.
So go get a fountain. Get a fountain.
At the water cooler. That's what I say, right? There's a big segula like this. Said in Zohar Kadosh, if you want to find your mate, go to the well, because that's where our fathers did. Who met his match over there? Right, Rivka was met over there, Yitzhak's wife. Also, Yaakov met his match over there, and also Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Tzipora, he met over there. So we see that our forefathers.
How did Abraham get married? He just went and get married.
Abraham Avinu, I don't know. It doesn't give that history. But the truth is that when he got married, he was still, you know, like a goy, basically. You know, there was a different, you know, he wasn't even converted yet. You know, he didn't even convert to Judaism yet. So that was a different thing altogether. Whatever. But anyway,
he was the first one.
He was the first convert. Yeah, he was the, you know. We are a nation of converts. He converted to Judaism. You know, he wasn't born a Jew.
Nobody was born a Jew.
That's it. So he was the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea.
So would Yitzchak be considered to be the first Jew?
Abraham was the first Jew. You're talking about the firstborn Jew, right?
Jew.
Yeah, Yitzchak was the firstborn Jew. But the truth is, you know, there's a machloket in the Chazal whether the ones who came from Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, were they considered to be Jews or not? Some say yes. Some say they were not considered to be Jews. They were like a goy, basically. What does that mean? That they kept all the mitzvot and everything, the whole Torah, but they didn't have a status of a Jew yet. Until what? Until Har Sinai. Until Moshe Rabbeinu. Two different opinions.
Okay.
Actually, they say this machloket was between the brothers as well. What does that mean? Yosef HaTzadik and the brothers had the same machloket between them. Right? Yosef HaTzadik considered them to be Jews already. But they considered them to be not Jews yet. That was actually the opposite way, the other way around. Just the opposite, right? Okay, anyway, interesting story, but
We'll get to this.
go back to the story. So he comes over there, right? So who does he find over there? He finds some people over there who are waiting to open up the well to give drink to the sheep, right? The flocks. So what happens is they're all sitting there waiting. So Yaakov Avinu comes there and tells them, he says, "What are you waiting for? You know, open it up already. You know, if you want to water your flocks, open them up. Or if you're just sitting here and wasting time, go and graze them. You haven't finished your job yet. Either way, right? He told them you're not doing something right over there. You know, he started to get on their case, right? Either work or open the well. You know, what are you saying? They're doing nothing. Why do you tell them that? Because a person who's working, you know, on a schedule, hourly rate, he's got to do his job. You know, you can't just sit there, you know, and daydream. It's like gezel. You know, it's like you're stealing from your boss. You know, this is the way it is. You're sitting there, looking at the sky, you know, counting sheep. You already have sheep on the ground. What are you counting sheep for? Right? That's the idea. So he told him, he says, excuse me, but you got to do your job. Either do this or that. Either this or that. What are you sitting there daydreaming for? Playing with your telephone. With your internet. What are you doing? What is this business? So they told me, he said, no, sir. He says, you don't understand. Don't accuse us of this crime that you're saying. No, we can't open it up by ourselves. We need to get all the people together, and then we do like one heave ho, because the stone is very, very big. So we're waiting for everybody to gather, and then we'll have the might to push it off like that big stone which covers the well. So Yaakov says, okay, I understand you. Okay, fine. So he tells him, he says, okay, I have another question for you, right? Interrogation time, right? Tells him, tell me, do you know Lavan Arami? Do you know his family, Lavan? Because I'm supposed to be going to his house. So he says, do you know him? How is he doing? Is he okay? Is he fine? How's his family? They told him. They said, oh, he's fine. Yeah. Look, now his daughter is coming. Right, just to see you. Right. Oh, there she is, right there, coming with the flocks. So who was that? That was Rachel. Right. Rachel was coming to water the sheep, right? To give water drinks to the flocks. Question is, by the way, very simple question. Why should a little girl be doing this job? This should be done for the sons, for the men. Is it a job of a woman to be a shepherd? The woman is supposed to be at home, cleaning and cooking and stuff like that. Today it's a little bit different, but that's the way it was. Traditional family was like that. So what do you have your little daughter going as a shepherd? What business is this? What is this?
But the same thing you could ask about Rivka.
Yeah. So why do you have such a thing like this? So what they say, right? That regarding this issue here with Rachel, the reason was because Laban didn't have any sons yet at that time. He only had daughters. So he had no choice but to send his daughters. He didn't want to go himself. To Mr. Mr. Cool. Doesn't want to get his hands dirty, get his feet dirty. So therefore he sends his daughters to do the job. Right? He could sit home and play around with his.
But it was just Rachel that came.
Right. She was alone. Yeah, by herself.
Not Leah.
No, not Leah. So what happens that Rachel is over there.
But shouldn't Leah be doing this job? She's the oldest.
Good question. I don't know exactly why it was Rachel. Must have been a reason for that. Whatever. Maybe Leah was doing something else, right?
Washing dishes.
Right, exactly. One doing this, one doing that, dividing the roles, whatever, right? So he sees Rachel, right? Yaakov, right away, what happens? Love at first sight, right? Oh, falls in love, right? Why did he really fall in love with her? There was really two reasons, right? One is because she was absolutely beautiful, stunning lady, right? Absolutely stunning. So he was like, oof, wow, he got knocked out, She knocked him out, right? TKO, right? Forget about it. So another thing was that he felt that she was the right lady for him, she was a very righteous woman. She was a very holy lady as well. So because of these two reasons, he got totally knocked out. So they had a little discussion between them, It says, oh, who are you? Oh yeah, I'm this. Oh yeah, we're relatives. So he says, tell me, he says, I'm going to come down to your father's house. Will you marry me? Because I'm going to talk to your father about this. So what he tells him is, yeah, but he says, my father, he's a crook, he's a crooked guy. He's going to trick you. He's going to pull a scam on you. He's a scam artist, con artist. So he tells him, he says, don't worry. He says, if he's going to scam me, I know also how to scam him as well. I know how to play those games also, Don't worry about that. I know how to take care of myself. In the end, by the way, it didn't work like that. Mm-hmm. He scammed him anyway. That's the way it was. So what happened was that he tells him, he says, okay, he says, you know what, let me go talk with them. They went to speak with Lavan. So Lavan comes out of the house, right? He sees Yaakov coming. So they tell him, they say, oh, you know who that is? This is the relative of Yitzchak, the son that came here before, his slave. Same family. So they said, oh, he said, he says, wow, this is a big opportunity, right? I got to take care of this opportunity, right? Jump on this opportunity. What do you think? He thought just like Eliezer came with a big, right, wealth and this and that. So he said, probably this guy also has a lot of wealth. This is a very wealthy family, all multimillionaires, whatever. So he comes over there, right, and he starts running towards Yaakov. He says, oh, Mike, my nephew, God bless you, right? Gives him, right? So he's checking him out, if he has anything to spot anything, right? He has any wealth, something. He has some camels, maybe like the Eliezer came with camels, maybe something inside, some money belt, think he's groping him like this. He pickpocket. He was a pickpocket. This guy, like they do the subway. Like they pickpocket you. That's the way he was. Groping here, this. That. So he's going like this, hugging him. This, feeling him up. Can't find nothing. No jewelry, no diamonds, no stones, no nothing. No bitcoins, no nothing, right? No credit cards, no nothing. Absolutely empty. So he tells him, he says, what happened to you? He says, what happened to your family? He says, they sent you like this? Empty-handed? This is the way you come to my house? So he tells him the story, what happened to Eliphaz, the whole story over there. He says, oh, you poor guy, feel so sorry for you. So what happened was, he tells him, he says, okay, you know what? What can I do? We have to be realistic. Whatever we have to deal with that. So he tells him, no problem. He says, you know what? I'll put you up in my house for a month. I'll take care of you for a month. No, I'm not going to charge you any rent. No down payments, right? No key money, right? No nothing. Just come in and live in my house for a month, and then we'll see what happens afterwards. So what happens is like this, right? That but he tricked him also over here. What does that mean? He didn't tell him to come live there for free for a month, right? He told him you got to be my shepherd. So for a month he was working as a shepherd for him, and this was like for the rent, so he could live there, right? The food and drinks, rent, or whatever, all everything included. But he had to work like a dog every day, go out to the field, work. So what happens is, right, that in the end of the month, Lavan tells him, he says, okay, he says, let's now, right, make some kind of a plan, because we just can't go on like this, right? There's no purpose. Let's make a plan. If you want to stay with me, you want to work by me, so let's make a wage. Let's make, I'll give you a salary. Let's make everything official. So he tells him, he says, you know what? He says, really, I want to marry your daughter, your younger daughter. So he tells him, but I have nothing, so I'll work 7 years in order to give you the dowry to take her. So he says, okay, no problem, So can you imagine? He made him work for 7 years, and for 7 years he has no wife, just by himself working like a dog. So this was very, very difficult. You know what I mean? This was very.
I disagree with you.
Yeah.
If Rivka worked like a dog, she was a shepherd also. So what's the big deal if a man works like a dog? Why do you?
No, what I mean to say is like this, right? That this was a very difficult life for him.
For Rivka also in that case.
He was living as a bachelor with no wife,
okay,
no relatives there, right? He's living in the house of his enemy, working like a dog for 7 years, just so he could get one wife for 7 years. Can you imagine? Have the person work for 7 years to get a wife. This is very difficult condition. Yeah, you understand? This is a very difficult condition. You know what I mean? This is very, 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 very. It's very cruel. This is cruel and unusual punishment. You know what I mean? You can imagine how it is to live like that. I mean, this is like terrible.
So did she.
I'm sorry.
So did she.
What does that mean?
Also.
What does that mean with Rivka? What are you referring to?
She was a shepherd also.
Yeah, but
not Rivka, the other one, Rachel.
Once he took over, Rachel was absolved. You understand?
Prior him taking over, she was also a shepherd woman.
Yeah, sure. He was also abusing her as well. Yeah, no question. He was abusing the whole family.
Okay, fine. So that was his nature.
You know what I mean?
Let's be fair.
But the fact that he agreed to this, you know what I mean, to do 7 years was something unusual. People will not. I mean, do you know anybody who will work for 7 years just to get a wife?
Whose idea was it to work for 7 years? It was his idea, or Yitzchak's idea, or Lavan's idea?
Well, the point was like this: they came to an agreement. There was a negotiation. You know what I mean?
So there was a negotiation.
Yeah, for sure. So what does that mean? That Lavan wouldn't give him for any less than that.
Fine.
This is what he had to agree to, which was very cruel. 7 years of work, nothing like sitting there by yourself, looking at the ceiling, looking at the walls.
So no income. Just work for 7 years.
Yeah, he had food and everything. Rent. Rent. Right. Lodging. Right. That's for 7 years. Like that. So it happens like this, right? But at that time, that's 7 years that he was working. So what happens is that they say that he loved Rachel so much, he considered it like nothing. Mm-hmm. He loved her so much. So it wasn't nothing for him. He wasn't suffering from that. The love was so great. Can you imagine a great love like this? A person loves his one woman for 7 years, even though he can't get her for 7 years, because he knows one day I'll marry her. This was something very unusual. Very unusual,
Hope.
You're not going to find something like this in reality, you know what I mean? You're not going to find. This is very unusual. Not today. You're not going to find. So what happens like this, right? That he worked 7 years. So in the end, what happened, right? He tricked her. He tricked him. Why? Why is that? Because when the time came for the wedding, he switched, right? He put Leah instead of Rachel. So the question is, why did he do this, right? What's the reason why he did this switch? What does he care about this, Actually, there were several motives that he had. Number one, his motive was to keep Yaakov there as long as possible. Right? He wanted to keep him there. He didn't want him to go home. What's the reason why he didn't want to go home? Because he knew that the blessing was coming from him. The presence that he had over there, he was being blessed by that. What was the blessing that he got? Number one, he didn't have any sons. Now he had sons. He got blessed with sons. Number two, also, he became wealthy, became a millionaire. All of a sudden, became like a big tycoon. He got blessed, right? So he knew that the blessing was coming from him. So therefore, he wanted to keep him there as long as possible. So he tried to hook on tricks to keep him there as long as possible, number one. Number two, they say also there's another thing, right? Lavan, with his wisdom, he knew that Lavan was a very wise guy. From the evil side, you know what I mean? He was an evil guy. So Lavan knew regarding Am Yisrael that had to come from Yaakov Avinu. So he wanted to prevent that because he was, fighting against it. The evil people always fight against the Kedusha, the holiness. They try to fight against it. That's the way it is. The wicked always try to fight. How do you know, by the way, let's say you don't know somebody, he's wicked, he's a Rasha, he's good. How do you know he's wicked or not? See whose side he's on. Is he on the side of the good people or the side of the bad people? If he's on the side of the bad people, he's also a bad person. If he's on the good people, he's also a good person. That's the idea, right? That's how you tell. That's the way it is. You see by the company he keeps. Who the person is. So what happened? That Lavan was trying to prevent that from going on, from occurring. He didn't want that great holiness to come. The tribes are going to be born, the holy tribes. So what did he try to do? He says, I'm going to try to mess him up. So what was the mess he tried to make? The truth is, right, that the halakha tells us, we talked about this before, some classes here we had, that when a person is living with one woman, right, having relations with one woman, but is thinking about a different woman, this causes a blemish in the child, a spiritual blemish. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to make blemish, you understand? So that's why he switched. Because he knew that Yaakov was going to be thinking about Rachel, but he's going to be really with Leah. So he tried to bring a blemished child into the world. He tried to pull this con job. This is what he was trying to do, you understand? Such an evil man like this. All kinds of evil schemes that he had like this. So this is what he was trying to do, right? There's also another way he tried to do this, another means that he had, which was what? He says, in the end, I'm going to give him all my daughters. He had 4 daughters altogether. So he said, I'm going to give all of them to marry. He pulled a con job like that also. That all the 4 daughters will go with him. Why is that? Because also when a person marries sisters, 4 sisters like this, so there's also some issues like this where a person is thinking about this sister and he's like with the other sister, that you get mixed up like that because they're all similar. They all look the same. You know what it is with sisters, right? They all look kind of like the same. They're very similar, similar qualities. So you can be like with one, but you're thinking about a different one sometimes because you get mixed up, especially when they're all your wives. You understand? So he was trying to pull this con job like this, trying to make him confused like this. So he's thinking about this one, being with this one. In the end, by the way, what happened? Did it work? It didn't work. It worked somewhat. What does that mean? He wasn't able to totally destroy the holiness of the tribes. That far he couldn't get. But he did damage. Right? He damaged as much as he could. How did he damage? So this is a interesting idea here. That the Zohar Kadosh talks in depth, by the way, about this, about the damage that he did to the children, the tribes. The truth is, right, the tribes were all righteous. They were all tzaddikim. There was no Rasha over there. Every one of them was a tzaddik. But, there's also when there's tzaddikim, there's different levels, different plateaus, right? You know that? So, not every one of them was on the same level. Some had more blemishes, some more, minuses, things like this, right? All kinds of bad qualities, the poor qualities in a minor sense. In a major sense, they were tzaddikim, but they had some poor qualities as well. So what happened was that, number one, Reuven got damaged. Right? How did Reuven get damaged? Because the first time that he was with Leah, he was thinking about Rachel. So because of that, he got born from that union. You understand? So Reuven was damaged by that mistake. So this is exactly why Reuven, in the end, he came out to sin. He sinned. He did a sin, Why did Reuven sin? He was the only one from the tribes actually who did a real sin, something real, substantial sin. Why is that? Because he was damaged by this encounter. Because he was thinking about this one, but being with the other one. So because of that, Reuven came out damaged. He was still tzaddik, but he was about tshuva. He did some sins, and then he came back and he did tshuva. Baruch Hashem. This is very good. This is also for the best, by the way, because we should have the quality of tshuva in Am Yisrael. He was the first Baal tshuva in the world, Reuven. So from him we learn about tshuva. This quality of tshuva is in the Jewish people. Also, we learn from David HaMelech, right? David HaMelech also sinned like that. He also sinned. He was also, by the way, the switch. There was a switch also with his mother. We talked about this before. He also came out damaged because of that. And this is the reason why he sinned with the Bathsheba. This is the reason why. So Laban succeeded with Reuven, first of all, somewhat. Not totally, but somewhat. There was also more success that he had. What does that mean? That the first three sons, right, of Leah, Reuven and Shimon and Levi, they all were somewhat blemished in a sense. What does that mean? They had some unbalanced way of behaving. Extra, too fanatical. Right? Too aggressive. There was some imbalances there. The first three sons had. The reason was because of this. The fact that he didn't really want Leah. He wanted Rachel. You know what I mean? So he was begrudgingly with her. So the first son got damaged the most. As time went along, he got used to it. So it gets to be less and less of a problem. So Reuven came out the worst. Shimon was second worst, and Levi was also some problem, but then it turned out very good actually, Levi, right? So, and Yehuda turned out the best, right? In terms of he was totally, no problems there, Yehuda. There was also problems with Yehuda as well, but much less. The point is like this, right? That he managed to damage them. What else did he manage to do? Also, they say, right, that the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, the two, right, the maidservants that he eventually married them, the first son from each one also came out damaged. What does that mean? That there was, right, Dan ben Naphtali from one of the wives, and Gad ben Asher from the other one, right? So Dan ben Naphtali, Dan came out a little bit damaged. This is why the Shevet Dan, tribe of Dan was always problematic. There was always idolatry by them, all kinds of things like this. They had a lot of problems of Shevet Dan. One of the biggest problems they had then from all the tribes. Shevet Dan, idolatry, sorcery, all kinds of things.
Used to call me and coach a defect.
Don't start with that.
Defect.
So Dan came out damaged. Also from the other wife as well, the other maidservant, right? There was Gad and Asher. So Gad also came out a little bit damaged. And Asher came out much better. So the second son came out good. Naphtali and Asher, they came out good. The first sons, not so good. You know why? Because when he went with these wives in the beginning, he didn't really want them. He wasn't really, in love with them, or he didn't really, he was just something practical, basically, just to work out all the problems. Exactly. To work out all the issues. There was issues involved there. You know what I mean? Why did they wind up, by the way, marrying the maidservants? What's the reason why? Because they were, she was barren. So she said, Rachel, if I give you my maidservant, maybe in that zechut, in that merit, I'll have a child also for myself. This is the reason why. So all because of these practical reasons, right? Spiritual things, they wound up. So he didn't really want these ladies. So the first ones, when he was with them, didn't turn out so good because of that. So what do you see from there, by the way? You see from there that a person should take somebody that he wants. Don't just take somebody you don't like. If you find something bad in her, something bad in her appearance, or something very bad in her personality, you shouldn't marry her. If you think it's bad now, wait till you get married. What's going to be, right? It's going to only go downhill from there. That's the way it is. If it's bad now, you can imagine what it'll be later. That's the way it is, right? So therefore, what happened was that Laban actually managed to do some great damage here. But nevertheless, the tribes all came out to be, all of them righteous, all of them tzaddikim. But you said, nevertheless, even though they turn out to be tzaddikim, the level of these tribes is relatively very, very different. What does that mean? That the ones that came out from good union with Yaakov Avinu and his wives, those tribes came out to be the biggest tzaddikim, the ones who are totally attached to Torah more. Very, very, very holy, very righteous. Who are those? Who turned out to be the best? We're talking about Yosef and Binyamin, right? These were like
Perfect.
top-notch people, right? Both of them. Because he loved Rachel very much, so with her, it was like, very, very great. But the truth is, right, that she was barren for a long time. So what's the reason for that? Sometimes, when a person, you learn from there something practically also, that a person, when he first gets married, if he marries a very beautiful lady, the first few years is very lusty, it's a very lusty relationship. It's like very physical. As time goes on, it becomes more spiritual. It becomes more like more love, more like something normal, something more human. The first few years, it's very lusty. When you have a really beautiful wife, it's like, it's very physical. So what does that mean? That the first few years, those first few kids will not turn out so good because it's too much lust there, too much physical. The later ones turn out to be better. Why is that? Because they're much more product of love. You understand? So this was good for Rachel that she had to wait. You know why? Because that lust had to first pass by, and then once she waited for several years, so now all that was left was like real love. So that's why the two sons of Rachel came out to be both very powerful. Very big tzaddikim. Same thing also applies, right, to the later sons of Leah, right? What does that mean? Yehuda and Zevulun and Issachar, right? Those three turned out to be very, very holy.
She had 6, right?
Right, 6 children, yeah. So Yehuda and Zevulun and Issachar turned out to be super, super holy. Yehuda was the king, right? So he was also very big in Torah. The Torah was always with Yehuda. Until this day, right? The Shevet Yehuda, they're full of Torah. Much, much more so than the other tribes. And also Issachar and Zevulun, right? Issachar was a Talmid Chacham. Zevulun was supporting him, going to business, bringing money for him so he can sit and learn. So these three tribes basically formed, right, the leadership of the Jewish people. Yehuda, Issachar, and Zevulun. These were like the mightiest people in terms of their spiritual might also as well. Not only physical. You know what I mean? One was Torah, one was money. You also need money, Without money, there's no Torah, right? And kesef and Torah. When you have no kesef and money, and kemach and Torah. When you have no food, you have no Torah. That's the way it is. So you need money. You need money for Torah. So Zebulun was providing the funds, and Issachar was sitting and learning all day. That partnership created a great deal of Torah in the world. So these three tribes always stayed, with the Torah very, very deep. That's the way it was. Why is that? Because it all has to do with the union between the husband and wife. When the union is good, everything is good. That's the way it is, right? So, interesting, right? Regarding also one more point I want to mention, that regarding the issue of Issachar and Zevulun, right? What happened over here? That Leah already had 4 children. He already had 4 sons. So then she stopped giving birth. So then, in order to facilitate having more, she wanted to have more. She had a great desire to have even more children. So what happened was that she gave down her maidservant also to marry Yaakov because of that, right? Which was Bilhah. So what happened was that in the zechut that he gave the maidservant, she was merited to have 2 more children. How did it turn out, this the whole thing? They say one day, right, the Chumash tells us that one day they were all sitting there, the family, right, the ladies, the ladies were sitting there, talking like the ladies like to do, hang around and talk, right? I don't want to use that word, the G word. I don't want to use the word, the G word. So, right. So, what happens is that Reuven comes that day and brings flowers for his mother. For Leah. He went to the field. He gathered some flowers. He brought her, right, and so Rachel sees the flowers. So she tells Leah, says, he says, can you give me those flowers? He says, do me a favor, I really like them. They're so pretty, they're so beautiful, they smell so good. Give me, he says, I'll give you something in return. I'll trade you, barter you. So Leah tells him, okay, what are you going to give me? So she says, you know what? It's my turn to be with Yaakov tonight. I'm going to give you my turn. Right? On the house. Right? So what happens is that Leah was looking for this opportunity. Because she wanted to have more children. She was very much into this. So what happened was that she was so into it. Amazing, right? That night that Yaakov Avinu was supposed to come home from the field, from the work, from the job. So she goes out there to greet him. She doesn't even let him just go into the house. No, it's just she goes out there to greet him. Tells him, "You're coming with me, sir. I hired you tonight. You're mine. You've been hired." So they say, right, that usually the derech eretz, Zilova, is like this, right? When a person is working in a field like this, in those days they used to get their feet dirty also, because they're wearing sandals, so like all black their feet. Not like today we have shoes. So a person, when he comes home, if he wants to be with his wife, right, what happens is usually he has to first wash himself, take a bath, at least bathe his feet, because it's like all black with dirt, They say that Leah was so into it, she said, "Don't forget about the shower, let's go straight." That's what the Zohar Kadosh says. Right? She went straight for the shower and says, "No shower." Why? Because she wanted to have those two children, right? That she wanted to have two more. So what happened was that they say that these stupid flowers, right? You see, sometimes they cause two great children to come into the world, two great tribes, because of these ridiculous things, right? These flowers. That's the way it is. Sometimes something ridiculous, meaningless, can cause something very great in the world. That's the way it is, right? So because of these flowers came these two great tribes, which made a lot of Torah in the world. Right? Because of them, we have tremendous amount of Torah. Until this day, by the way, this agreement with Issachar and Zevulun goes on. You see, right, that there's a yeshiva world, yeshivot, and then there's the people who are supporting the business people. This partnership goes on. I've seen it, by the way, myself personally. When I was in Israel, there was this exchange going on all the time. What does that mean? That the Syrian Jews, who are like very much business oriented, they were sending money to the yeshivot until this day, right? They're the biggest donors. Nobody donates like them. So what happened was that those chachamim were all living off their donations. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for their donations, we wouldn't have all these yeshivot in Israel today. We wouldn't have all this Torah, renaissance that we have. It's all because of the Nezachut. So this is like the modern day, Shevet Zevulun. You know what they do. This is what it is. It's unbelievable, right? Until this day we have this arrangement. Nothing has really changed in that sense. Okay, so let's do a little bit of Proverbs, just for some good measure, right? So we shouldn't disappoint you. Very, very important point it says in the Proverbs, right? It says like this in Perek Yud. Shlomo Melech, he says, "Berov devarim lo yachtal pesha." What does that mean? When a person speaks a lot, there will always be some sin over there involved. What does that mean? When you talk too much, there's going to be some lashon hara, there's going to be some curse words, 4-letter words, God forbid, all kinds of things like this, right? When a person speaks too much, always, when he speaks a lot, something will come out bad. The mouth is like want. It's like, it's want to sin, there's a lot of sins, right, come from mouth. So therefore they say, right, that if a person speaks a lot, always something bad will come out. What's the only exception? When you speak the words of Torah. When a person speaks Torah, it's only good. Right? But when it comes to other types of speech, sitting around talking about this and our history, where did you work, where did you live, this and all kinds of personal issues which have no gain for anybody, no advantage for anybody. Just wasting time, showing the breeze. Something bad will always come out of this kind of speech. When it comes to Divrei Torah, that's something else, right? Divrei Torah, it's always good. They say, by the way, the same thing also applies to machloket. In general, machloket is something very, very bad. Strife, all kinds of fighting, all kinds of infighting. We see what goes on in Washington, right? If you want to see machloket, go and see there. Right? Go in the Knesset also. You'll find also in the Knesset over there, right? All these people fighting all the time, fighting one with the other, cats and dogs. They say the only machloket which is good, you know what it is? Machloket in Torah. When you have machloket in Torah, the Zohar Kadosh says, it's very, very good. Nothing wrong with that. Just the opposite. It's very, very good. So when they're fighting in Torah, yelling and screaming at each other, very, very good. Give them a big thumbs up. Give them a big like. Because that's what it is, right? It's a big like when they're fighting in Torah. But when they're fighting in other things, it's the pits. Any other kind of fighting is bad. But they're talking about words of Torah. This one says like this. This is unbelievable. Because it brings you people to the truth. When they fight, when they sharpen each other like that, they come to the truth. So to fight in Torah is very, very good. But don't fight about anything else, right? Nothing else is worth fighting about. That's the idea. So then he says, right, Shlomo Melech. So we said, right, when you speak too much, it's always going to be something bad there. It's a general rule. But, right, the chosech sefatav maskil. But the one who speaks sparingly is a wise person. Doesn't talk too much. Only when he needs to. That shows that he's wise. So they say, by the way, if you really want to look smart, just don't say nothing. Just be quiet. You're going to look very smart. Even if you're not so smart. You know what I mean? If you sit there just like this, and you're not so smart, they're gonna say, "Wow, this guy must be so smart." All he does is concentrate. All he has like thoughts in his head. He doesn't even talk to anybody. He must be like in his own world. Must be a genius, this guy. So when you don't talk, you look like a genius, because you don't say nothing stupid. You look great. So what does that mean? That a person who is really wise, he talks sparingly. Doesn't talk too much. Only when there's something needs to be said, something at the right time, at the right place, the right opportunity to say something. But not just to make some corny remarks, corny jokes. You don't need those. Sometimes a good joke is also good. We know that, right? We know that. I don't have to tell you. But, there's a time and place for everything, the right time, right measure. So when a person talks sparingly, that's a wise person. Doesn't talk too much. Only things which need to be said. Divrei Torah, words of wisdom, right? Things that benefit people, about health, about this, all kinds of things that you need to know to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself happy, to make yourself successful. You talk about these things. That's the idea. Okay, very good. So, another one I want to say. This is a really funny one, right? It says like this, right? Kischok lekesil asot zima. So this is really funny. It says that for the fool, right, doing like disgraceful things, it's like a joke. You know how it is, right? These young guys, you see them, right? They're foolish boys, young foolish boys. They have no experience, so they do some silly things, and they make jokes out of it. They say, "Oh yeah, you did that. You jumped off there, right? You did this to this guy. Some practical joke. You did this." They think it's funny. They think it's like a joke. Yeah, I did this. I remember one time we had one friend. I don't want to tell you his name, right? I don't mention his name, but what happened was that he told me himself, right? He said one time some guy came up to him, another guy that both of them these guys. They're your friends. So he said one time he came up to me from the back, and I wasn't looking, over there in 108. This was like 30 years ago plus. So he says he took my pants, I just put it down, down. That's what he did, So you see, right, that for people, some people, this is like, it's fun, it's like it's a game. You do these kinds of things, So what happens is that people like this, people who are foolish, they consider these things to be like, like a joke. Yeah, I did that. I pulled down his pants, I threw him into the paint, I put paint on him, I did all kinds of things, Yeah, it's a joke, So this is the way of fools, that they consider to be the most vile things. They consider it to be a joke, like nothing wrong with it. What does that mean? That they lack a moral substance, moral fiber. How can you do such a thing to a person like that? Pull down his pants like that in the street, embarrass him. You don't feel any shame about that? Something wrong with you, man. Like you, where were you born? What kind of family did you grow up in? Where'd you grow up in? In a family of cats? The cats, they fight each other. They'll rip each other apart. That's what you want to do to your friends. So that's the way it is, right? With the fools, they consider it to be the most vile things, like a joke. Hey, what's wrong with that? That's the idea. So it says Shlomo Melech, right? B'chokhmah leish tevuna. But he says when it comes to the wise person, what's considered to be like a fun thing for him? Not to do silly things like that, but wisdom is considered to be fun for him. So if you see a person whose biggest fun is to have wisdom, to attain wisdom, to talk about things, to sharpen each other, do you know about that? Do you know about this? To make each other know more things, to understand more. This is considered to be the wise person's fun. His fun is, to sharpen each other with the mind, go into depths, analyze things, get to the truth. This is the fun of the wise people. The fun of the fool is to do all kinds of vile things like this, disgraceful things. For him, that's a joke, Yeah, it's a joke, It's fun, having fun with that. Two different approaches, right? Two different diverging approaches that is there in life. Baruch Adonai le'olam amen. Thanks for coming. God bless you. All the blessings to you and your families. Derech Shalom.